Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Lessons with Cheri. And I'm recording this on Sunday evening after U of H just beat Tennessee to go on to the Final Four. So I couldn't be more proud of our team. They are looking good, even though it was a lower scoring game and there were a few turnovers toward the end. They went 40 minutes before they had a turnover, the boys did. And, I think about coaches out in the world when I think about my own leadership. And they're the ultimate leaders out there when you think about it, because they're working with especially high school, middle school, children coaches, right? And college coaches, because you're working with people that have not yet really discovered who they are. And so you're not just teaching them the craft, but you're also having to mold them into the people that they're going to grow up to be one day. And I know that so many times professional athletes make bad decisions and have these things happen later on in life once they start to learn about having to control the money that comes in and all of the fame and all of the things. So I think that college coaches in particular have such a challenging um, position. And when they can bring these teams together to continue to stay focused, I kept saying to myself out loud, of course, as I was watching on the TV, how every time the Cougars got the ball toward the end, the last, I would say, 7 minutes of the game, I kept saying, okay, let's slow it down and show them who you are. Play the game like you know how to play it. And I could see people in the audience as they were scanning the audience doing the pump the brakes kind of thing to slow people down, because we get into the hype of those games and it's so easy to just run and just shoot and just throw. I've coached sports before, I know. And yeah, so I'm really proud of that team and the work that they have done. So now we get to watch one more game next week as they play Duke. And this is going to be quite a showdown I'm excited for. Having said that, it leads right into what I want to talk about this week on the episode, and that is, what are the most important qualities of a leader? You know, there's so much debate on this. I'm just going to be honest. And even because I always try to research and I go out to all the reputable websites that I like to use, Harvard Business Review, Harvard Leadership, other Carnegie Leadership, other universities, wherever I can find the most trusted information. I went to Chat GPT and then put it in as well. And there are so many different characteristics that people say leaders need to have. And I think that that is true. But then I started to think about, but what are the most important ones? If you're just getting started as a leader, which I'm working on a launch right now to launch a program that is for aspiring leaders. And I want to be sure that I'm giving these aspiring leaders the best information I can possibly give them. And then when you think about people that continue to want to move up within their organizations, they get into their role with one skill set, but then they have to develop the next skill set to be able to step in to the next role. I've been there, right? And we get so much information thrown at us, especially in 2025, because it's at our fingertips. It's hard to really, as I said, the University of Houston had to do in the game today, slow down and do what you know you're supposed to do. And so I just felt like this would be a great opportunity to talk about this and ensure that as you are moving forward in your career, and with my focus changing a little more towards school leadership, being able to think right now, because it's that time of the year, where you want to go, what it is you want to do next, whether you're ready or not, right? All of those questions are coming around. And this doesn't just apply to school leadership, but the timing right now fits. I think it's important to be able to assess our own skill set and understand where we have our strengths and what areas do we need to focus on so that we can be ready for those next positions. So having said that, I want to start with saying, just off the cusp of my own thoughts, Number one, I think as an effective leader, a highly effective leader, we're talking about those great leaders, not just the good leaders, not just the average leaders, but as a highly effective leader, you have to have some moral, like a moral compass, right? You have to be able to lead with integrity, period. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do it. If it's right no matter who is watching. You need to be able to be the role model. Whether you realize it or not, you have so much influence as a leader. Whether your people love you or don't love you, whether they just, you, or at least you feel they just show up and they're compliant, they're still watching everything that you do. You definitely have to lead with integrity. You have to be honest. You have to be able to say, okay, this didn't work out. I get it. It's not necessarily I'm blaming you. I'm just as much at fault. You have to be able to stand up when something is not going right and be able to speak the truth, even when it's hard, have those hard conversations. And I think with the honesty piece, you also have to think about being real. As leaders, especially high achieving leaders, we have these big goals and these big visions, and we know where our organizations can go. We see the potential in people, but we also have to ground ourselves in, okay, what exactly is it going to take to get us there? And are we willing to put in that hard work to be able to do it? In addition, I think that you have to have some kind of trust factor. And I will tell you, I started my career as a principal. Um, I was in it about 4 years and I went through a really ugly divorce and it rocked my world. And some really messed up stuff came out of this situation that had happened to me that I didn't even know about, that could have been detrimental to my well-being. And I already had growing up, which I had thought I overcome some trust issues, and then they were right back there again. And I had to do the inner work because I had to remind myself that these people within my organization, they're not the ones who did this to me. They weren't the ones that I should be fearing, that I should be thinking were not going to follow through for me, that I should be not trusting. And as leaders, especially high achieving leaders, sometimes we are the kind of people that stuff has happened to us. And so we throw ourselves into our work and then we're good at it. And then we just keep moving up and moving up. So if you have that baggage, you have to work on it. You have to be able to be a trusting person to an extent. I'm not saying trust everybody with everything, but you do have to have a way of trusting your people to get the work done without micromanaging. Because I do believe micromanagement is the one most important killer of a leader's success. And it happens because of trust, not having the trust, and fear. Fear that the employee is better than you, fear that you're not going to know enough for your employees. Fear and trust, super big. So we got to get those right. Then when I did the research, I will tell you exactly what came out of it. I took all my pieces, ran it through chat, talked to chat because chat's my new boyfriend these days. And here's what I got out of all of that research. And I don't think these are in any particular order, just the order that it was spit back out to me, because they were very, very direct in saying that there are several key characteristics, clearly, because I put in a lot of information. But even though every study out there emphasizes things a little bit differently, these were the ones that were most recognized within all of the research. So the first one listed is emotional intelligence. I include that in all of my programming because I feel like it is so important. And when you think about it, and the research says, organizations are saying right now, they want their leaders clearly to be able to be competent, have high IQs, be able to do the work, but have just as high emotional intelligence, EQs. And some companies are even saying, especially in 2025, as work has changed and all of the things, that they're valuing a higher EQ over an IQ any day. And I will say this, one of the things I mentioned it in my TED Talk, and I always told my teams when we were getting ready to hire, we hire for heart. I can teach you how to do the job. Sure, you need to be able to read and write and do all the things, but I can teach you how to do the job, but I cannot teach you to care about the job, care about our kids, care about your work ethic. It's those types of things that make people highly qualified. So it does not surprise me that this was on the list from all of this research that tended to be similar across the boards for highly effective leaders. Number 2 on this list is vision and strategic thinking. Clearly, we need to be able to step into our roles with a vision that we can be the best. And if you can't do that, that's where you're going to falter as a leader. But in addition to that, you need to be able to communicate that vision out to your people in a way that they're going to get on board and they're going to believe that it's possible. And then be able to do the strategic planning that comes with that vision so that they can start to see that it actually can happen. We've got this great picture of things going on, but now how are we going to get there? And then your people can start to feel success. Number 3 is adaptability and resilience. I was interviewed this week on a panel with the students at my school. It's a all-girls middle school. And the girls asked me, what was one word as a leader that I think is very, very important and I continue to follow in my own work? And I said the word resiliency, because we're going to have really great days as leaders and we're going to have really awful days as leaders. People are going to love us, and then people on some days are not going to like us at all. And if they love us every day, clearly we're not doing our job, right? But the bottom line is we need to be able to adapt when times are hard, and we need to be able to continue to show up when times are not optimal. Because the first time something goes sideways and you want to shut down, you're done. You're done as a leader. And we don't want that to happen. So having that adaptability and resiliency, very, very important. And then knowing how to instill that in your team as well. Because as soon as they fail, and they'll fail, there will be failures, but that we can learn from those failures and keep going and not just give up as well. Number 4 on this list was effective communication. And I think that that is one of the top as well, along with this whole integrity. I think that you need to be able to be open, to be able to share what you can share. You need to be able to be vulnerable and say when you don't know something, you need help with something. You need to have a system in place so that the communication is consistent. And I learned this because I made a mistake one time where had gotten busy in my own personal life and at work, at school, and I meant to send something out and it just slipped my mind. This was probably into my second year as a principal, and it affected my staff because it was an important thing that I needed to communicate it out, and I didn't do it in a timely manner. So they found out about something in real time, like, oh, it's due and it's due right now. So shut down everything and get this done. And I didn't have a choice but to have them do that. And they were really not happy with me. So it's being very proactive with your communication systems. But when you have a system in place that is effective and you gather feedback and you ask your people, does this work for you? Do you know what's happening? Do you feel comfortable being able to have a conversation with me? Being able to put all of the things in place that have to be put in place to have that effective communication system, then it runs itself as long as you continue to follow your system. And I think that about every system. So, I'm kind of a systems driven person, but I just feel like this is another one of those places to do that. And then the number 1 that they had on this list, of course, aligned exactly with what I said, is the integrity and accountability. I didn't say accountability. I do believe that that's like top, but this is what ChatGPT said from the research it gathered from Coons and Posner from 2017. Trust is the foundation of great leadership, as you heard me say. Highly effective leaders lead with honesty, transparency, and a commitment to ethical decision-making. They take responsibility for their actions and they hold others accountable as well. So I really feel like, you know, this is really key to so many people's success and then so many people's demise. And as we were like talking back and forth, chat and I, my boyfriend, he asked, or I think it's a he, right? Because he's my boyfriend, but he asked, do you want this centered more for women? Because most of my work has been with female leadership, I have to say, and educational leadership. And I have to say that these were still very, very much the same. Emotional intelligence, vision, and strategic thinking. And for you in the school settings, that one in particular said a strong vision is crucial in shaping school culture, improving student outcomes, and driving institutional change. And educational leaders with clear strategies are more effective in implementing long-term reforms. So if you're in a position, you don't know how you got there, but you're in a position that you're a transformational leader all of a sudden, like my first position, then that was key, I think, for all of you. Of course, with the adaptability and resiliency, with women, we face so many gender biases out there, but also for educational leaders, the landscape is consistently changing. It's just all the time, and politically, and we never know what's going to be coming at us. We know right now in 2025, we're in a situation. And so we have to be able to be resilient, take it with stride, navigate this crisis, because I do think it's going to be a crisis and we have to do it with a smile on our face, right? But then also be able to adapt to it so that our organizations can continue to move forward. Of course, they said communication as well. And then wrapping it up, integrity and accountability. And I love this one for educational leaders. Trust is the foundation of strong school leadership. Administrators and principals who lead with integrity foster a culture of accountability, ensuring that policies and practices aligned with student-centered values. And I think that's one of the things that we always have to keep in mind. Whatever your organization is, your clients are so important. A school system is a little bit different. I think a hospital is unique in some of those ways. But then when you really think about it, think about a law firm, think about a insurance brokerage, a real estate brokerage. When you're dealing with people, those people have to be at the forefront of all the decisions that you make. I can speak as a school leader, and I always told my staff this information, period. And it was, you are extremely important to me on my team, and I'm going to support you in every way I can. I'm going to treat you with ultimate respect. You're always going to know that I'm going to stand up for you when I can. But every one of my decisions, students have to come first. If it's something that is crucial for student success and it might make staff uncomfortable, I'm going to err on the side of the student every single time. And I think doctors would say the same things. Lawyers would say the same thing. Insurance agents would say the same thing. We have to remember who is the ultimate customer for us and how do we want them to be treated. And then I wrap this up with just my last little piece. As a teacher, I always said, if it's not good enough for my own child, it's not good enough for anybody else's child in my classroom. And so I always designed my classroom as if I were teaching my own child. And then when I became a principal and few years into it, she became a teacher herself. I started to think, if it's not good enough for my own staff, or for my own daughter as a staff member, it's not good enough for my own staff. Sure, there were tough conversations. Sure, there were days that we didn't always like each other. But ultimately, it came down to, I always thought every decision with my daughter being that person in front of me as a student or as a staff member. And finally, I just always go back to the golden rule. If I didn't want to be treated a certain way as a parent, Why would I want to treat the parents within my school that way? I know that I had days where I was acting like a fool. I was a mama bear. I was that one that was going to stand up for my kid no matter what. And I did. There were days where I was like, whoa, I think I would be afraid of me right now. Parents come into schools and they might not always know how to handle situations. They might be coming in with their own biases from their own childhood. And they may not handle the things in the way that we want them to handle it, just like clients in a law firm, customers at a hospital, et cetera, et cetera. But I always made sure I spoke respectfully. I had an open mind. I was an active listener. I was a problem solver with the parent. It was never a place where it was, I don't want to hear this. It's my way or the highway, and shut it down. And I bring that up because there are people out there who are leading and doing those things. And that is not how we become the most effective, the highest level of leader, the one that goes from good to great. All right, y'all, have a great week, and I'll see you next week right back here on Leadership Lessons with Cheri.